We've picked an example project of something that anyone can easily imagine, but which has probably never been done before: building a wind farm on the North Pole. So let's see how AI copes with planning that.
We're going to use AI to give us a little bit more than we'd normally deliver at this stage of the process. We'll give it details about the project. The better we describe it, the better the results we can expect. The quality of your input defines the quality of the output. We'll be asking our AI assistant to get under the skin of the stakeholders to understand what arguments are most likely to get their support. Now, that involves a bit of psychology. We'll be looking at their rational, social, and emotional motivators, and we'll ask for their most likely objections so that we can be prepared to answer them. You can run this prompt for lots of different audiences to help you increase the chance of earning their support and therefore increase the chance of success for the project. I'll read out the prompt. You are a highly experienced project manager who knows how to persuade decision makers to support a project. I want you to help me understand how my curly brackets project will be viewed by a specific curly brackets audience of stakeholders. Start by telling me what their relevant rational, emotional, and social motivators are. Then tell me what objections they might have, along with how I should respond to them. Given the list of stakeholders I provide you with, give me a list of areas where their interests might conflict with each other and suggest how to approach these situations. Give me advice on how I should talk about the project to them to get their support. And finally, write a creative headline followed by a 100-word paragraph to describe the project in a way that sounds appealing to all of the stakeholders. Deliver your response in Markdown using headlines, subheads, and bullet points to make it easy to read. Then, at the bottom of the prompt, we define the variables that we've included in the beginning of the prompt. So we've got curly brackets project. We are planning to build a wind farm on the North Pole. It will have 50 turbines that are 100 meters tall with 40-meter blades. They will transfer power to communities in Greenland to replace fossil fuel energy. Then we've got curly brackets audience. These are the people that we are wanting to get the AI to consider in its response. We have lead engineer, investment bank lead, and political lobbyist.
So before we move on, Dave, I noticed that in the prompt you had the word project in curly brackets twice. So what's going on with that?
That's right. So you've got it in the main body of the prompt. You can see that we've got curly brackets project. And at the end of the prompt, which is the instructions to the AI, we again have curly brackets project. Now, this is to make it really simple to edit. All that we do is we replace the text at the end of the prompt. So after curly brackets project, we replace that text with whatever information we have. The AI then very cleverly takes that information we've put in and it basically pastes it into where the first curly brackets project is so that the information is then included in its instructions.
So if you were planning a completely different project,
yes,
you just change the end bit,
yes,
and then when the AI is reading the whole thing, when it gets to the first occurrence of the word project, it will then jump down and apply it all to your new project that you've just edited.
Absolutely. So let's see how the AI gets on with that. So as you can see, Chris, it goes pretty fast when it starts responding to us here.
Yeah, it's really fast, isn't it? So for each person, each stakeholder, it's doing the rational, emotional, and social motivators and their potential objections. That's so useful.
I think it's really interesting here when we get the areas of conflict, where it's actually taking each audience and one by one, it's combining them against each other to see, right, okay, for the engineering person versus the finance person, what's the conflict?
Yeah, and then it's telling us the strategy of how we should deal with each of those stakeholders. But what I really like about this, it's not only doing it really well, but it's making us much more likely to do this at all. Because in real life, you probably wouldn't bother with this, or quite often you wouldn't bother. But it's so easy to do this. Why would you not? And if it spots just one thing that you hadn't thought of, then it's incredibly valuable.
Yeah, and it gives you something to go in a document that makes you look smart. And you're showing it to other people as well.
Yes, if you're trying to justify doing a project or get funding or permission to do a project, to have done this analysis would help hugely with that justification.
So we've looked at stakeholders there that are internal to the project, part of the project. Let's look at some external stakeholders now. Who do you suggest, Chris?
Well, I definitely think environmental activists ought to be there. We've got to consider them. What about the CEO of Greenland's largest energy company?
Yeah.
We'll put them in. And maybe some of the remote communities are going to be near where the wind farm will actually be. How will they feel about this project?
Perfect. Let's go for it.
Yeah, it's catching some really important people and some of the issues that I think we could easily have forgotten. So I really like the way it's looking at the conflict between the global and the local needs. So, for example, the local communities, they might want the economic benefits, which could come from this wind farm. But on the other hand, they're going to be worrying about the ecological effects. And I think it's really clever the way that the AI has thought its way through that.
Yeah, something that people might not necessarily have thought of themselves when they're doing this exercise.
Yeah, I think the summary is particularly brilliant. It's really persuasive, isn't it? The vast, untapped winds. It's a great way to think about the project. So what I'm getting from this is that AI is not just a list maker, because we know it's good at that, but it's actually also a far better writer than most human writers. Certainly a better writer than I would be, which is amazing.